Hey, what up, though, guys? The middle-aged muscle man musician, aka Donald Pump. Please make sure you hit subscribe. Got a couple of videos I've uploaded recently that should be real helpful to people, and lots more to come. I'll get right into the subject matter here. I'm going to cover 18 things that I learned in my 18-month transformation. Hopefully, some of, if not all of these things can help you if you're just re-embarking on something or if you've never done it before, as far as weight training and attempting to bodybuild, especially at middle age or at least over 30. That's kind of what I specialize in around here. Looking pretty scruffy today, man. I was kind of working a temporary assignment, and it is what it is. I'll keep some of my measurement changes from the 18 months so that you can kind of, in a roundabout way, know what to expect if you go hard with this. And take note of some of the things I say to go along with that, put it in context. And also, you know, some of the before and after pictures I'll have in here, even though I haven't done a whole lot recently. So, number one, the first thing I'll say is that you don't want to lose weight too quickly. I've said this a million times. You end up with loose skin, which if you're doing this for aesthetic purposes, kind of ruins it. You know, you finally get to where you've got a good amount of muscle, you've got low body fat, and it still looks like you got a little bit of fat that you got to burn off, or your muscle, or the shape of your muscle and definition is off. That's because of the loose skin. So I've got a video I'll link to here that I've linked to a few times recently that kind of breaks down for you the amount maybe that you'd want to lose. Kind of gives you some guidelines on that. You also lose muscle if you burn fat too quickly, if you lose weight too quickly, and you lose strength. Believe it or not, you're going to lose some strength being in a deficit all of the time, which means you won't be able to progressive overload as well. So just keep your weight loss in check. Don't go crazy with it. The number 2 point, make sure you rest enough between sets. You can go so much heavier and harder if you give yourself a couple of minutes between the sets. I go at least 2.5 times longer than what the set was now. So even if it's a 30-second set, I'm resting a minute and 15 seconds at least. They actually say to do more than that. I know you're not going to want to do this. A lot of us are pressed for time. You're also probably trying to fit a lot of cardio in. And you want to keep that energy, that adrenaline going. You want to jump right into the next thing. And I understand that, but you're not going to get the results you want if you don't rest enough between sets. That was actually a hard sell for me. I almost never really gave myself enough time, even back in the day when I was in my 20s and grew exponentially. I mean, that was probably because I was in my 20s. But God, imagine how much bigger and stronger I could have been if I would have actually taken longer rests. Point number 3, and yes, I'm looking at notes here. Listen to and look at your body. You're going to see a lot of things about set numbers online, the frequency of which you should train, intensity. You're probably working around some sorts of injuries. You don't want to overanalyze necessarily as far as looking at progress photos, which I think we are going to cover in a later point. But you can listen to your body and know if you're undertraining or overtraining. Usually it's going to be undertraining. But by undertraining, I don't mean that you're not doing enough frequency. You're going to have guys on here that say, oh, you got to hit each body part 2 to 3 times a week if you want to grow, especially as a natty. And I've talked about in another video how that thought process from the same guys that tell you that, you know, they do PEDs because it helps with recovery. Now, see, that doesn't make sense. If you're doing it natural, chances are you need more recovery. But that's a whole different conversation. But listen to and look at your body. If you see a lot more growth, and I'm talking over, you know, a reasonable amount of time, not within days or something like that, but say it's been a month or two and you notice that one party's growing a lot more than another, kind of take notice as to your amount of frequency, maybe your intensity on given exercises and things like that, and kind of weigh it out in context. Don't just say so-and-so said I should do X amount of sets. I mean, in my most recent video I'll link to here, I did give you kind of a beginner training program or a returner, I call them, meaning somebody that worked out at some point in their lives or trained seriously, or at least in a sport that required them to be in a gym. And I give you some kind of rough guidelines. But what I'm saying is to put those in context with your body and how it responds. Like, for instance, some people's biceps respond to a very small amount of volume. Some people need a ton. And your intensity, like I said, you may notice that, well, wait a minute, I've been doing, a relatively high amount of work, and it's kind of even across these two body parts. Why is this one not responding? Partly genetics, but it could be something else too. You could just so happen to go much more intense, say, on the pecs than you do on the arms, because it's more important to you to push more weight, or whatever the case may be. Anyways, that's a long way to say just listen to and look at your body. Your injuries. You may hear that, constant repetition with light weights is what's going to hurt you. Go ahead and go heavy. I've heard that a million times. But my body tells me to do a more moderate weight with good control is better than just going heavy for a few reps. I know damn well if I put that tendon under a ton of weight one time, that's when it'll tear off the bone. Not doing moderate weight with nice controlled movements. I mean, yeah, of course, if you're going super fast with low amounts of weight, yeah, that can put more wear and tear on the tendon or on any injury. But none of us are really doing that anyway, if we're doing this in a bodybuilding sort of way. Number 4, take days off. You're not going to want to. You're going to be thinking, I'm a fucking fat slob, or I'm kind of a pussy when it comes to the size of my muscles and the strength. I need to be in a gym 7 days a week. In all actuality, you don't. You can overtrain in a sense of frequency. As you should know by now, when you grow is actually when you rest. And as much as you may split up your body parts correctly and be given, 48, 72 hours of rest in between given body parts, you're still hitting them in some way or another when you're doing different movements. Your central nervous system is still taking it as wear and tear on your entire body. So you need to take your rests. I mean, yeah, I only rest 2 out of every 8 days. But to be honest, I could probably do well, maybe even better with less. I just really like to be in the gym, to be quite honest. But yeah, especially if you're doing longer workouts, you don't need to spend, 6, 7 days in the gym a week. I would say 5 should be your maximum, in all honesty. I mean, that's if you want to grow. If your muscles don't get a chance to heal and rebuild another layer of muscle fiber, then nothing's happening. Number 5, form is number 1, but don't overdo it. Coming back in the gym, I was actually doing this. I was like, okay, so I'm teaching my son how to do this. I got to show him that form is everything. Don't do things sloppily. That's how you end up with long-term injuries, sloppy, crappy bench presses when I was younger, probably part of the reason why my shoulders are just totally destroyed. But that doesn't mean to completely overdo it to where your form is holding you back from intensity. I mean, intensity is everything. And truth be told, a lot of times when you're overdoing it on your form and trying to isolate a muscle, you're kind of screwing yourself, because no matter what, you should have supporting muscles helping in the lift. So just obviously stick to good form, but don't overthink it. You'll never be able to progressively overload. You'll get it in your head that such and such amount is too much. You'll also get it in your head that, rather than intensity, you need to be time under tension for an entire minute or something, and that's not always the case. Number 6, don't get used to your rates of gaining muscle and losing weight. Trust the process. I'm a mathematical person. I'm kind of OCD with numbers. So I'm always working numbers in my head constantly. I don't know if it's some kind of coping mechanism or something to keep me calm, because I'm a pretty high-strung person. But regardless of all that, you know, if you're used to, say, losing 1.5 pounds of weight a week, and all of a sudden that's not happening, that may be okay. I mean, you know, obviously you want to check your metabolism and stuff like that. It can change. Your body adapts to things, and I'll link to a metabolism hack here. But it's not always going to be the same week to week, especially not like day to day. And, you know, there's all kinds of different factors that come into play, especially at the weight thing, like how much water are you holding and why, and, you know, time of day, what food's still in you that hasn't run its course out of you, you know, that sort of thing. And as far as gaining muscle, yes, measurements matter, but those are going to vary a lot too. Like, how much blood do you have in that muscle right now? You know, how worn out is that muscle? How depleted are you of glycogen? You know, all of these different things. So don't get hung up on the rate of losing weight. I mean, it's always going to slow down. And when it starts slowing down, to be honest, there's a good chance that you don't really need to lose it right now, or you don't need to lose it at that type of a rate. Number 7, chill with the pre-workout cardio. It's fine if you want to do cardio at the beginning of your workout. There are lots of reasons why it's not the greatest thing to do. I mean, you should do it just to get blood flow into your body, but don't treat it as your cardio. Too often I see, and I did this too, you know, you want to lose the weight, you love doing the weights, you hate the cardio, you're like, you know, if I don't do this at the beginning, I'm not going to end up getting it done. Well, you need to have some self-control and do it later or something, because you don't want to wear yourself out. You may not even notice that you're tiring yourself out, but you will. So just chill out with the pre-workout cardio, which sounds kind of like an oxymoron because, or it sounds redundant because cardio is part of your workout, but you guys know what I mean. Number 8, relax with the supplements. I understand that you want to do a complete health turnaround. You want to have as much energy as possible. You want to build muscle. You want to figure it out better than the last guy did. But if your diet is right, and by right, I mean halfway freaking decent, and you're getting the protein that you need and the fiber that you need, and your caloric needs are met, the supplements are just out of hand with some people. The expense is just unbelievable. I know a guy right now that's on like 100 supplements, and I'm just like, what the fuck? No, I mean, seriously, just for like muscle building and fitness, he's on at least 40 of them at any given time, and I'm like, wow, the price of that is crazy. You're not going to get out of it what you think you're going to get out of it. What this study said doesn't necessarily apply to you. There's no magic combination of pills or substances or any of that aren't PEDs that are going to give you some big advantage in your training. I mean, if you're going to just narrow it down to a few, you know, obviously make sure you always have a protein supplement. I just consider that part of my diet. I always have that between bars and powders. But do creatine, obviously, a good multivitamin. And I say, even though I guess it's not a supplement, more of a pro-hormone, do Tonkat Ali. And look in the description for a coupon code or contact me directly for an even better deal. 9, don't fad lift. Don't work in 1,000 different variations of squats or do weird exercises hanging from things or with weight plates that only have handles, which, oh no, somebody's using those plates at my gym. Don't do weird lifts. Don't get into that fad shit. There's a reason why things are staples. Don't look at any of these guys' stupid videos in YouTube Shorts or in TikTok and be like, oh, well, that's what I want to do. I want to balance while I'm doing this other thing, or I want to offset this or that. No, just do basic lifts, you know, compound and isolation. But there's a reason why things have been done in certain ways for a really long time. It's because it works. Guys are just trying to make content to get you to click on their shit, you know, to get their views up. You don't need 100 different kinds of squats. At this point, I don't even do squats, and my legs are really, really growing. Number 10, Anything is cardio. And let me explain what I mean in this. I mean aerobic activity that helps you to lose weight, that burns calories. Here's an interesting fact. Let's say you're trying to figure out, which you should be at the beginning, how many calories you expend in the course of a day. Did you know that it's significantly more calories that are used if you're driving a car rather than being a passenger? Or if you're walking just slightly uphill, that it's a nice, a much better rate of calories that you burn. You may think you have to run full speed if you want to burn a lot off, but guess what? I almost never run. I burn more calories than most guys do running by walking uphill at a moderate to moderate high pace. I can spend less time that way, less wear and tear on my joints. Maybe you like the elliptical machine. Maybe you like the bike. Whatever it is that works for you, do it. You know what I mean? Whatever you can see yourself doing long term, or whatever you feel like doing that day. There's lots of things that you can do. Just don't think you're going to jack your calorie loss and your metabolism up a lot by essentially running from machine to machine, like circuit training and shit. If anything, you're just going to not gain much muscle doing that, and you'll burn like 10 more calories in a day. Just remember that all kinds of different things contribute to how many calories you get rid of in the course of a day, and that a calorie is a unit of energy, and that you need to put out more energy than you take in order to lose weight. Take notes on your posture, body positioning, injury overcompensation, etc. Some of this you may need to film yourself working out, which there's nothing wrong with doing. You also get to check your form and stuff like that when you do that. But take notes on it, meaning not only is it, painful to have bad posture, for instance, it forces you to use different muscles when you do different lifts or different things throughout your day. So you may have, say, underdeveloped traps or something like that, but that's because of how, when you're picking things up, you're using like all front delt and rhomboids or something. You think it's something you're doing wrong in the gym, but no, it's actually due to your posture. And for other obvious reasons, you want to check your posture. But also, like, for instance, a lot of guys that think, oh, God, I got gyno, I got bitch tits or whatever, and I'm working out and it's not helping. I need to do an updated version of my gyno video, defeating gyno and whatnot, because I didn't talk too much about how if you're sloped forward, you're hunched over periods of time, you're literally training your muscle fibers to be in a different position. If you're in a different position when you're doing things physically throughout the day, even if it's minimal, you are training your muscles and body to be in that position. You will have to work to undo that, like I have. Also, check your injury overcompensation. If you're going for symmetry, the veins looking gnarly. If you're going for symmetry, it's going to throw it off really bad. Like, for instance, like my left lat just doesn't stick out the same as my right one just because of my shoulder issues. It's definitely in a slightly different position, and there's muscles overcompensating and stuff when I'm pulling back on, like, say, a lat pull or something like that. Also, be careful, watch like any presses overhead or bench presses, things like that. You're going to notice that your range of motion is different. You're going to want to correct that. Same thing with like your tendons and your forearms. You're going to want to teach your arms to be in the proper position where they're supposed to be at. Through your whole life, you've developed bad habits, essentially, from your body being in different positions. You need to kind of undo those. It'll make your training not only easier and less painful and less injury prone, but it'll also make your physique look better. Okay, so yeah, just pay attention to those things. 12, journal. And I don't just mean keep track of exercises, the amount of reps and the weights, which you need to do. You really need to. You need to take notes like delt pain in this exercise, Don't get proper pump in this exercise. The last 30% of this movement is difficult, or I don't feel any tension. Things like that. You need to kind of star those, and when you go back and say do your plan for the next week or the next month, take a look at those things, take note of them, and adjust accordingly. I mean, I'll even have things in there like most beneficial doing this first. Things like that. That's what you need to do. Number 13, don't overanalyze measurements, photos, your weight gain or loss. Keep it in context. Yes, I said listen to and look at your body, but don't overanalyze things like it. I think I already said this about the measurements, but like the photos. I mean, the lighting, your posture, your positioning, the angle of the phone or camera can be the slightest bit different. There's all kinds of things. Eventually you'll learn to take photos that you're happy with. Mine are still crappy because of how I have to do it. Doesn't matter. I keep them consistently crappy. Try to take them the same types a day, same amount of pump, all that kind of thing. That's fine, but don't overanalyze it. Like, oh man, my arms look weak compared to last week. It's like, well, you're not really going to see much of a difference in the course of a week anyway. Same thing with your weight. As long as it's within a few pounds over the course of a week, you're good. Number 14, don't go to failure every set. Man, the guys that we all look up to basically tell you to go to failure all the time. Now they're saying to leave 1 or 2 in the tank. Most people, especially novice lifters, even intermediate lifters, don't know how many they have in the tank. You think you have 1 left, you have 3. That sort of thing. It's really hard to gauge that. What I do is go to like mechanical failure where my form starts to suck. Now, I crank out another forced rep after that. You don't need to do that. That's just at the stage of my training that I'm in. That's just the way I like to do things. But do not go to failure on every single set. If you do, you got to rest a lot longer. But I'm telling you, it's not beneficial for the amount of effort that you're going to put in. It may even make you go backward. Maybe do a training day or a week or something where you do that. But I'm telling you, it'll wear you out a whole hell of a lot. You'll have a harder time going into the gym the next day. You'll drag ass a little bit. If you do that for a prolonged amount of time, when you start training the right way, you're going to feel like you're not training hard enough. Don't go to complete and utter failure in every set. That's crazy. Number 15, stretch well after your workouts. I think everybody knows now that if you overstretch at the beginning of a workout, it can cause injuries and it takes away strength and all those kinds of things. But you do want to stretch well after your workout. Even if you don't have injuries, you just get tightness and stuff like that. You want to stretch, particularly the parts of the body that you just used, and spend a good 10 minutes doing so. Treat it like you're training. Do, a nice rest period in between each set of stretching. I mean, your body will thank you the next day. You'll sleep better, which means you'll recover and grow more. All of that kind of stuff. Number 16, do not focus on the pump. The pump doesn't mean much. You can get lots of blood into the muscle and get pumped up off of doing damn near nothing, with almost no intensity, with almost no fight or flight response inside your body. You can do 100 pec deck flies of like 60 pounds and get lots of blood and look great and be like, okay, I'm done. That's not what you want to do. I mean, yeah, you want to get a pump, but it's super easy to get one. Don't focus on that. Focus on, you put a bunch of time into trying to figure out what the right amount of workload is for you. So stick with that. Stick with the process. Do good rest periods in between the sets. Go ahead and get your entire workout in. Even back in the day with like bro science thinking, basically what I would do is I would get the perfect pump, meaning that body part looks the best it ever has for me, or as good as it can, and then I'd do another set. Even that line of thinking doesn't really work. You'll be able to feel when you've gotten the right workout on those muscles. Number 17, you retain most of what you teach. So as long as it doesn't drive them nuts, and I know I drive my fiance and my kids nuts, and guys I meet on the job, teach them what you've learned. Repeat what you've learned from a guy that you believe to be right, or that you've tried out and found to be right. It's a known fact, a great statistic that you can learn so much from hearing it, reading it, all your different senses. But if you teach it to someone else, you remember it far better. I forgot what the percentage is, but it's a crazy percentage. It's like through the roof. So when you've figured something out or you've learned something from a credible source, repeat it to other people. It's far more important than probably anyone's ever going to say. But definitely do that. You know, even if it's just online, like repeating it like in a comment to someone or something like that, or they're typing it on Facebook if you still use that terrible app that I'm trying to get myself off. Number 18. Okay, you do need compound movements. A lot of those compound movements are a staple for a reason. Okay? You're going to see a lot of guys say like, oh, if you're a beginner, just stick with the compounds. You know, you're not going to get the proper muscle growth or strength from doing isolation exercises. Bullshit. Especially, think about cables. If you're new, the number one thing is, and I should have just made this one of these 18 points, but I think most people already know it. Mind-muscle connection is everything. That's how you'll be able to tell that the pump is nothing. You know if you work that muscle properly, and you'll be able to isolate your muscles better and stuff like that. Is your mind-muscle connection is the absolute top of the pyramid when it comes down to what's important in your training. Compound movements, your mind-muscle connection is going to be hard to figure out if you're a beginner. Even sometimes with some movements, an intermediate lifter. Work some cables in there. You know, do some isolation movements. Those will teach you how to really target that muscle. And your eccentric of movements normally isn't going to get the proper burn, the proper work. You're not going to do it slow enough if you're a beginner. With that cable, at least you can really feel that. You can really tell if you're cutting that rep short. You're not going down slow enough, and you're getting the right amount of tension no matter how fucked your form is. The cable is forcing you to have tension going down as well as up. So use some cables in your workouts. I'm not saying to not do any compounds, obviously, but on each body part, at least work one cable movement in or something. You know what I mean? One isolation movement in. So I think that's the end of the points. You know, let me know what you guys, like if you had a transformation and you came across this video, what were your measurement changes? Or if you think you'd add something to this because you have the experience of going through a major transformation and you wish guys knew a certain point when they went into it that would have saved you a lot of time and effort, share it here, man. Like I'm always trying to get like kind of a community going, and it seems like the only time I do is when I'm talking about supplements. I understand that that's an important topic because everybody wants to be a scientist, and also it has a lot to do with money, our expenses. So I get that, but your time is money. So like this training stuff is not really shortcuts, but don't overcomplicate things. Let's share some information so that guys have a leg up on things. It's not like you're competing with them and you need to beat them, okay? That was always a thing in bodybuilding. Guys wouldn't actually share what they were doing because they're afraid of the other guys they're competing against knowing and using it, which I understand. None of us are pros at this, okay? So let's just go ahead and help each other out. I've gained so much perspective from guys that it's unbelievable. And female fitness competitors and bodybuilders. So let me know what you guys think of this stuff. Again, make sure you subscribe, follow me. I'm putting more and more stuff up all the time. Check out the videos that pop up here. And on that note, I say peace.